Oh, Yankee, welcome. How's my audio, visual? Looks like I'm probably a bit dark. Lighting's not exactly great, but got to work with wherever I'm at. Hello, Jayanta, welcome. Hello, Gregory. Give it a few minutes as always. Hello, Douse. Good to see you. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Those of you who are just joining, feel free to say hello in the chat. We know who's with us tonight. All right, about 1 minute. Let me put up our beginning chant. It has been about a month and a half since I used StreamYard. So it's good to be back in the full functionality here. The same, the normal time, 8 a.m., 8 p.m., I should say. Let's see, let's share screen. Right now, I'm in New Jersey. I'm going to be in New Jersey for the next couple months. Moving around between family members. After that, who knows? Hey, Jay. Good to see you. All right. Let's get started. I think it's about time. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Uttahatta nisiddhatta koato supite navo. Atura nani kadidda salaviddana rupatang. Uttahatta nisiddhatta dalhang sikkatta santiya. Mavo pamatte vinyana machoraja mohitaya vasanuge. Yaya deva manusa cha sitta tittanti attika. Tarate natang visatikang kanovo magma upajjaga. Kana tita hi sochanti nirayami sampatyata. Pamado rajo pamado pamadanu rajo appamadena vijaya abhabhe salamatanoti. All right, English. Wake up, make an effort. Get up and sit. What need of sleep for the sick? What rest is there, pierced by the arrow of pain? Get up and sit. Train hard for peace. Let not Mara know that you are negligent, deluded, and under his control. Cross beyond this craving, tied to, desiring which gods and men remain. Don't let this chance pass by, for those who do so grieve, sending themselves to hell. From dust arises negligence, from negligence to more. By diligence and knowledge, pluck out the dark oneself. All right, friends. Welcome. Dharma Learner, Visaka, Randy. Good to see you all. Welcome, friends, to the first Dhammapalooza in about a month and a half at the normal time, Monday nights at 8 p.m. This is a 2-hour festival of Dhamma with the Maggaseka community. And during this 2-hour festival of Dhamma, there's a variety of Dhamma-related activities. We started out, as always, with some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation. What happens in between then? Who knows? That's because Dhammapalooza is, as always, community guided. So this is now the time where we decide, what is Dhammapalooza going to be? Is it going to be a full session of Q&A? Is it going to be a full session of reading suttas, having discussion? We'll see. So right now in the chat, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or the community to discuss, you can type that in the chat. And if nobody has anything tonight, we can always read a sutta. I always have a sutta in my back pocket. Good to see you, friends. Hi, Isla. Hi, Isla. The little one. Just giving some time to see what comes up in the chat. All right, I'll give it one more minute just in case, because I tend to, as soon as I break out a sutta, a question tends to pop up. We'll see if that is the case here. Sharing screen. We'll read about the Buddha's advice to his son Rahula. Advice to Rahula Ambalatika. See, as soon as I put up a sutta, questions arise. it always reminds me, there used to be a young woman who helped manage the Discord for many years. She kind of disappeared without a trace, didn't say goodbye. We don't know what happened to her. Hopefully she's okay. But she would always joke when she was on here that that she would say, "Everybody have questions," so that we don't read a sutta. So, of course, Visakha is the opposite. She's like, "No questions. Let's just read suttas." But we see we have questions here. So, what Dhamma teachers do you learn from these days, or do you mostly self-study? Depends on what you mean from learn from. I don't like listen to Dhamma talks or see what techniques that other teachers have and such like this. Um, Mainly when I'm listening to a monastic talk, it's related to the suttas, and it's often related to a specific aspect of the suttas that I'm kind of trying to go deeper in. So that's really my connection with other monastics or with you know Dhamma teachers that I'm learning from these days. I don't really feel the need. It's because I've did it for so much for so many years. I don't feel the need to kind of like find out the new teachers and the new Dhamma talks that are coming out and things like this. Um, it's not something that really I don't want to say is worth my time, but it's not something that I spend time on these days. Um, I spend time on sutta reading, Vinaya reading, Pali reading, um, and I have my core group as always of monastics who I kind of look towards when I need perspectives on things. Some of them I have direct contact with, and some of them I don't. But this group of monastics, as I've mentioned many times before, are monastics who I kind of trust in their perspective and their understanding of the suttas, and I look to see their their perspective on things sometimes. And the three things the Buddha didn't say, what is the jiva? Jiva is life. This is kind of like, is it the life essence? I'm trying to remember if that's the in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha gives up the life essence, if that's jiva or not. But that's what jiva is here. Um, like the life essence or the force. Let me look it up real quick. Yep, life, vital principle, individual soul. I guess that's the that's from the Vedic. Jiva is a living thing, a living being, the principle of life, vital breath. Yep. Jiva. So it's a long I. All right. Um, I thought there wasn't a life essence in Buddhism, is because he's talking to Brahmins. Depends on what you mean by life essence. We're not talking about a soul here. We're not talking about a being. This is just simply um, the quality of life, like something that kind of animates a being in the body. This is in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. The Buddha, you know, asks questions of Ananda to see if he gets it, but he doesn't get it. And so the Buddha renounces the life essence, the life force. And in doing so, that was the time, the ticking timer for the Buddha's parinibbana 3 months hence. Has nothing to do with the personality or the person or the individual. This is simply kind of like the essence of life. Obviously, it has more soul-like connotations in Brahmanism of the time, but that's not what the Buddha is talking about. It's not something that comes up very often. It's only in less than a handful of places in the suttas, and I've never really seen it explained very deeply because I don't think we know very deeply about it. Could be wrong. I don't know. Um, I'm sure maybe the commentaries say a lot about it. But other than in the commentaries, I don't think the suttas really expound on it that much. All right. Let's read some sutta. Advice to Rahula. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. Now at that time, the Venerable Rahula was staying at Ambalatika. Then in the late afternoon, the Buddha came out of retreat, went to Ambalatika to see the Venerable Rahula. Rahula saw the Buddha coming off in the distance. He spread out a seat and placed water for washing the feet. The Buddha sat on the seat and spread out and washed his feet. Rahula bowed to the Buddha and sat down to one side. Then the Buddha, leaving a little water in the pot, addressed Rahula. Rahula, do you see this little bit of water left in the pot? Yes, sir. That's how little of the ascetic's nature is left in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Then the Buddha, tossing away what little water was left in the pot, said to Rahula, do you see this little bit of water that was tossed away? Yes, sir. That's how the ascetic's nature is tossed away in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Then the Buddha turned the pot upside down, said to Rahula, do you see how this pot is turned upside down? Yes, sir. Hello, Malika. Welcome. Good to see you. That's how the ascetic's nature is turned upside down in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Then the Buddha, turning the pot right side up, said to Rahula, do you see how this pot is vacant and hollow? Yes, sir. That's how vacant and hollow the ascetic's nature is in those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. The Buddha's really milking out a bunch of similes with one thing, a pot with a little water in it. That's the genius of the Buddha. Suppose there was a royal bull elephant with tusks like chariot poles, able to draw a heavy load, pedigree, and battle hardened. In battle, it uses its forefeet and hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusks, and tail, but it still protects its trunk. So its rider thinks this royal bull elephant still protects its trunk. It has not yet. It has not yet given its life. But when that royal bull elephant in battle uses its forefeet and its hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusks, and tail, and its trunks, its rider thinks, this royal bull elephant in battle uses its forefeet and hind feet, its forequarters and hindquarters, its head, ears, tusk, and tail, and its trunk. It has given its life. Let's see. Obviously, we don't mean here, um, like it's killed itself or it's allowed itself to be killed. I don't know. Look at the Pali. It's kind of like, I think this is kind of like, us saying it's given its all, like they gave all kind of a thing. Let me see. Hmm. Yep. Given up, abandoned, left behind, bestowed. So it's like it's giving its all. It's putting its life on the line. Now there is nothing that royal bull elephant would not do. In the same way, when someone is not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie, there is no bad deed they would not do, I say. So you should train yourself like this: I will not tell a lie, even for a joke. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? This is where the famous simile of the mirror comes that I often talk about, reflecting. His talks with Rahula. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? It's for checking your reflection, sir. In the same way, deeds of body, speech, and mind should be done only after repeated checking. When you want to act with the body, you should check on that same deed. Does this act with the body that I want to do lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? It's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result. If while checking in this way, this act with the body that I want to do leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result. To the best of your ability, Rahula, you should not do such a deed. But if while checking in this way, this act with the body that I want to do doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result, then Rahula, you should do such a deed. Now, of course, that's very all nice and good. You think, oh, I think this will be a good deed. But while you're doing it, you should check on that same act. Because it doesn't just stop when you think it beforehand. I think this will be a good deed. I'm just going to do it. No, while you're doing it, you're still questioning, still looking. Does this act with the body that I am doing, present tense, lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? Is it unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result? If while checking in this way, this act with the body I am doing leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result, then Rahula, you should desist from such a deed. So even if your intention was pure when starting out, if you're mindful and aware and understanding that the action is still causing harm, then good intention is to stop doing so. But if while checking in this way, this act with body that I am doing doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result, then Rahula, you should continue doing such a deed. After you have acted with the body, you should check on that same act. Does this act with the body that I have done lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? Is it unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result? If, while checking in this way, this act with the body that I have done leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result, then Rahula, you should confess, reveal, and clarify such a deed to the teacher or a sensible spiritual companion. And having revealed it, you should restrain yourself in the future. But if while checking in this way, this act with the body that I have done past tense now. Doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both. It's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result. Then Rahala, you should live in rapture and joy because of this, training day and night in skillful qualities. When you want to act with speech, you should check on the same deed. Does this act of speech that I want to do lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both? And it's just a repetition of the same thing with the action of the body. It's the action of speech. If while checking in this way, you know this act of speech that I have done leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both. It's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result. Then Rahula, you should confess, reveal, clarify such a deed to the teacher or sensible spiritual companion. And having revealed it, you should restrain yourself in the future. But if while checking in this way, you know this act of speech that I have done doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result. Then, Rahula, you should live in rapture and joy because of this, training day and night in skillful qualities. Hello, Rupa. Hello, Joy. Welcome. Joy. I wonder if this is a name that I've not seen before. Or have you been with us before, Joy? I'm trying to remember if it rings a bell. All right. The act of speech that I have done doesn't lead to hurting myself, others, or both. It's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result. Then, Rahula, you should live in rapture and joy because of this, training day and night in skillful qualities. When you want to act with the mind, you should check on that same deed. Does this act of mind that I want to do lead to hurting myself, others, or hurting both? This is important because it all starts from the mind. That's the beginning of the Dhammapada, right? All actions are led by the mind. Mind is their master, mind is their maker. Actors speak with a defiled state of mind, and suffering follows as the cartwheel follows the foot of the ox. So you might think, why would I need to stop this thought in my mind? Because the things that arise in your mind, if not caught, if being unmindful, can leach out to your thoughts, to your words, and your deeds. When you want to act with mind, you should check on that same deed. Does this act of mind that I want lead to hurting myself, others, or hurting both? Same repetition. If while checking in this way, you know this act of mind that I have done leads to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's unskillful with suffering as its outcome and result. Then, Rahula, you should be horrified, repelled, and disgusted by that deed. And being repelled, you should restrain yourself in the future. But if, while checking in this way, you know this act with the mind that I have done doesn't lead to hurting myself, hurting others, or hurting both, it's skillful with happiness as its outcome and result. Then, Rahula, you should live in rapture and joy because of this, training day and night in skillful qualities. Yeah, good catches, Jay. All the ascetics and Brahmins of past, future, and present who purify their physical, verbal, and mental actions do so after repeatedly checking. So, Rahula, you should train yourself like this. I will purify my physical, verbal, and mental actions after repeatedly checking. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, Rahula was happy with what the Buddha said. Any comments, questions, clarifications about the sutta we just finished, or anything related to Buddhism, meditation? Most of you know the drill by now. Gregory has an interesting question. I play board games with my kids where we play as a hidden identity. Would lying as part of this game be unskillful? It feels harmless to me, but curious to your thoughts. Well, the intention is part of the game that you are playing a kind of like a spy, kind of, like it's part of a game. So um, I wouldn't really think of it as a deliberate lie because the intention is to deceive. Um, you know, outside of this framework of a game, I think it would be a different story. But if it's within the framework of a game, everybody understands that framework of the game. I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. Um, Another aspect of that would be kind of like, well, what does that train my children to do? That's something that might be contemplated on. I don't know an answer to that one way or another. I don't know if that's necessarily a big thing or not. Um, it's kind of like in the same vein as, when growing up, I remember playing video games. You'll become a mass murderer, and I killed lots of people in video games. I never killed anything bigger than a bug in real life. So yeah, I think it's things to contemplate. As far as we know, Rahula was definitely a child. Not like probably like 10, 8, 9, 10, something like that. Yeah. Just checking to see if anything pops up in the chat, and maybe we'll move on to the next sutta with Rahula, since we do have time. We got through that other sutta fairly quickly. Jay does make an interesting point that I like to make. Samma ajiva. Right? We often think of this as it's described, right? Livelihood, meaning like right how we make a living. But that word means basically more generally also it means how do you live? Right? Your ethics, your principles, your virtue, your how you choose to live, your philosophy, you know, these kind of things. So it can go much deeper than what your job is. If you're following the Noble Eightfold Path to the best of your ability, I would say that that's Samma Ajiva. That's right livelihood. All right. Moving on to the longer advice to Rahula. We'll read this and then we'll do some meditation. So have I heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove and Natapindika's monastery. Then the Buddha robed up in the morning and, taking his bowl and robe, entered Savatthi for alms. And the Venerable Rahula also robed up and followed behind the Buddha. Then the Buddha looked back at Rahula and said, Rahula, you should truly see any kind of form at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, coarse or fine, inferior or superior, far or near, all form with right understanding. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. So we have gone quite a jump in teaching with Rahula. We've gone from the basics of being mindful of your actions to not self. Quite a big jump. Only form, Blessed One? Only form, Holy One? Form, Rahula, as well as feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. So the five aggregates. Then Rahula thought, who would go to the village for alms today after being advised directly by the Buddha? Turning back, he sat down cross-legged at the root of a certain tree, setting his body straight and established mindfulness in front of him. Venerable Sariputta saw him sitting there and addressed him. Rahula, develop mindfulness of breathing. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. Then in the late afternoon, Rahula came out of retreat, went to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, Sir, how is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated to be very fruitful and beneficial? Rahula, the interior earth element is said to be anything hard, solid, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This includes head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, undigested food, feces, or anything that's hard, solid, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. So this is one of those places where you can learn if you want to learn reflecting on the body via the elements. This is one of the places where you can learn a bit more detail in that. These are the solid aspects of the body. It is called the interior earth element. So this should be understand. This word ajhatika is not meaning like the inside of the body. It's meaning like of the body, of this body and mind. External would be somebody else's body and mind. The internal earth element and the exterior earth element are just the earth element. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. So whether it's internal or external, this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. When you truly see with right understanding, you reject the earth element, detaching the mind from the earth element. And what is the water element? The water element may be inferior or exterior, or interior or exterior. So that's the Ajatika and Bahira again. You see this in the Satipatthana Sutta. You see this in a variety of different places and practices. Interior is always of this mind and body. Exterior is what is external to that mind and body. Interior is the eye, exterior is sights. Interior is the nose, exterior is smells, odors, etc. And what is the interior water element? Anything that's water, watery, or appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This includes bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, saliva, snot, synovial fluid, urine, or anything else that's water, watery, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This is called the interior water element. The interior water element and the exterior water element are just the water element. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. When you truly see with right understanding, you reject the water element, detaching mind from the water element. And what is the fire element? The fire element may be interior or exterior. And what is the interior fire element? Anything that's fire, fiery, or appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This includes that which warms, that which ages, that which heats you up when feverish, that which properly digests food and drink, or anything else that's fire, fiery, and appropriated that's internal pertaining to an individual. This is called the interior fire element. The interior fire element and the exterior fire element are just fire element. They should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. When you truly see with right understanding, you reject the fire element, detaching the mind from the fire element. All right, just checking the chat. And what is the air element? The air element may be interior or exterior. And what is the interior air element? Anything that's wind, windy, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This includes wind that goes up or down, winds in the belly or the bowels, winds that flow through the limbs, in breaths and out breaths, or anything else that's air, airy, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This is called the interior air element. The interior air element and the exterior air element are just the air element. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. When you truly see with right understanding, you reject the air element, detaching the mind from the air element. And what is the space element? The space element may be interior or exterior. And what is the interior space element? Hello, Metika. Welcome. Anything that's spacious, and appropriated that's internal, pertaining to an individual. This includes ear canals, nostrils, and mouth. The space for swallowing what is eaten and drunk. The space where it stays. The space for excreting it from the nether regions. So basically, the orifices and any spacious areas inside the body. This is called the interior space element. The interior space element and the exterior space element are just space element. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine. I am not this. This is not myself. When you truly see with right understanding, you reject the space element, detaching the mind from the space element. Let's see. Jay says, could the earth element also be the soil and solid things out in the world? I like to reflect that the earth, water, air, fire, heat, they're the same as those inside of me and come out again. Um, yeah, I suppose it's basically the same. That would be they'd all be considered external, external earth element. That's all. Now we get into really good advice on how to, the attitude of how to live, how to act. Rahula, meditate like the earth. When you meditate like the earth, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose they were, equanimous. Suppose they were to toss both clean and unclean things on the earth, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The earth isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like the earth. Let's see, what is he using for meditate? Cultivate. Okay, bhavana. All right. So develop and cultivate like the earth. Okay. For when you meditate like the earth, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Meditate like water. For when you meditate like the water, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose you were to wash both clean and unclean things in water, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The water isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like water. For when you meditate like water, pleasant, unpleasant, and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Meditate like fire. For when you meditate like fire, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose a fire were to burn both clean and unclean things, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The fire isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like fire. For when you meditate like fire, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Meditate like wind. Suppose the wind were to blow on both clean and unclean things, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The wind isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like the wind. For when you meditate like the wind, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Meditate like space. When you meditate like space, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Just as space is not established anywhere, in the same way, meditate like space. That's it. That's a deep one. Just like space is not established anywhere, meditate like space. Not established anywhere. When you meditate like space, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Meditate on metta. For when you meditate on metta, any ill will be given up. Meditate on karuna, compassion. For when you meditate on compassion, any cruelty will be given up. Meditate on mudita, appreciative joy or rejoicing. For when you meditate on rejoicing, any discontent will be given up. Meditate on upekkha, equanimity, the four Brahma Viharas here. When you meditate on equanimity, any repulsion will be given up. Meditate on asubha, ugliness. For when you meditate on ugliness, any lust will be given up. So subha means beautiful, pleasant to look upon. Asubha is the negation of that. Not beautiful. Meditate on anicca, impermanence. For when you meditate on impermanence, any conceit, I am, will be given up. That's this word here. Maybe you can see it. Asmimana, the conviction I am, the conviction of individuality, egotism. This is one of the last of the 10 fetters to be given up before somebody becomes awakened. Develop mindfulness of breathing. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. And how is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated to be fruitful and beneficial? Right. It's when a mendicant goes to a wilderness or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut, sits down cross-legged, sets their body straight, and establishes mindfulness in front of them. Just mindful they breathe in, just mindful they breathe out. Breathing in heavy, they know I am breathing in heavily. Breathing out heavily, they know I am breathing out heavily. Breathing in lightly, they know I am breathing in lightly. Breathing out lightly, they know I am breathing out lightly. They practice like this, I will experience the whole body. They practice like this, I will breathe out, breathe in, experiencing the whole body. I will breathe out, experiencing the whole body. They practice like this, I will breathe in, stilling the physical process. They practice like this, I'll breathe out, stilling the physical process. They practice like this, I'll breathe in, experiencing rapture. They practice like this, I'll breathe out, experiencing rapture. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, experiencing bliss. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, experiencing bliss. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, experiencing mental processes. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, experiencing mental processes. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, stilling mental processes. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, stilling mental processes. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, experiencing the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, experiencing the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, gladdening the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, gladdening the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, immersing the mind in samadhi. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, immersing the mind in samadhi. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, freeing the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, freeing the mind. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, observing impermanence. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, observing impermanence. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, observing fading away. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, observing fading away. So we're going through, obviously, the 16 steps of mindfulness of breathing. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, observing cessation. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, observing cessation. They practice like this. I'll breathe in, observing letting go. They practice like this. I'll breathe out, observing letting go. Mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated in this way, is very fruitful and beneficial. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way, even when the final breaths in and out cease, they are known, not unknown. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, Venerable Rahula was happy with what the Buddha said. Tao says, stilling the mental processes is nice. Yeah, certainly. Yeah. If you can get there and not get too attached to when stilling the mental processes goes away and the mental processes come flooding back. All right, friends, it's 8:53. Why don't we do our meditation? And let's see. Then after that, we'll do some Dhammapada readings and probably call it a night. So we'll start by setting our bodies up in a comfortable and stable position, whatever position works for you. Jay, that is Majjhima Nikaya number 62. So we did Majjhima Nikaya number 61 and 62, both shorter and longer discourses on advice to Rahula. All right. Set your body up in that comfortable and stable position. We'll spend some time scanning through the body. Starting from the feet, moving up to the head. Place your focus and attention on the feet. Paying close attention to whatever sensations or feelings arise, like the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor, the cushion. Move up through the ankles into the calves. Through the knees into the thighs. What's the feeling of the thighs pressing against the cushion, the chair? Move up to the hips and pelvis, paying close attention to this part of your body and how it impacts your posture, both the upper body and the lower body. Position of your pelvis is an important part of observing if the posture will be stable and comfortable or have pain later on. When you're ready, move up the spine through the abdomen and the chest, making sure that the spine is not leaning or slouching here or there. Ideally, it should be resting comfortably in its neutral position, its natural curvature, not being compressed or bent. These are primary reasons for pain in the back as you sit to meditate on a cushion. Move up to the shoulders, making sure they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Down through to the elbows and hands, observing how the position of the elbows and hands also impacts your posture. And finally up to the head. Checking that the head is not leaning or slouching here or there, chin parallel to the floor. When you're ready, setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. As this body breathes in, the body breathes out. Remember to lay down your burdens, put down your worries and concerns for the time of this meditation. As you're following your breath, your mind will get bored and will run away to the past or the future, across the world, into various stories and fantasies. or an external distraction like a sound will arise, and your mind will chase after it and get trapped by it. After a time, it will slowly start to dawn on you that you've been taken away from the breath. At that point, try to come back, bring back your full mindfulness and focus. Acknowledge you've been taken away from the breath. Practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor by getting excited more, continuing to hold on to it. Try to do your best to let it go, to let it be. Give it no energy, no attention, no focus. Let it go on its way and return to the breath. So whenever you're distracted away, acknowledge, let go, and return. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Always come back to the breath. The breath is home base. It's always there, doing its thing, ready for you to come follow it to a more calm and tranquil mind. A mind that sees things as they are. Every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? As it does, you may begin to notice further, deeper, more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. See if you can notice and follow these more subtle impermanence of the breath as the breath is breathing in and out and changing. As your mind is becoming more calm and tranquil, and you're able to see even more subtle, refined aspects of the breath, do your best to follow the full cycle of the breath. The breathing in, the pause when the lungs are full of air, the breathing out, and the brief pause when the lungs are empty of air. Follow that full cycle of the breath, in and out, empty and full. Slowly open your eyes. Coming back from the internal to the external, becoming aware of the room around you, the live stream, reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and any experiences you might have had. Let's read some Dhammapada and then we'll call it a night. Hell. The liar goes to the state of woe. Also he who having done wrong says, I did not do it. Men of base actions both. On departing they share the same destiny in the other world. There are many evil characters and uncontrolled men wearing the saffron robe. These wicked men will be born in states of woe because of their evil deeds. It would be better to swallow a red-hot iron ball blazing like fire than as an immoral and uncontrolled monk to eat the alms food of people. Four misfortunes befall the reckless man who consorts with another's wife: acquisition of demerit, disturbed sleep, ill repute, and rebirth in states of woe. Such a man acquires demerit and an unhappy birth in the future. Brief is the pleasure of the frightened man and woman, and the king imposes heavy punishment. Hence let no man consort with another's wife. Just as kusa grass wrongly handled cuts the hand, even so a recluse's life wrongly lived drags one to state of woe. Any loose act, any corrupt observance, any life of questionable celibacy, none of these bear much fruit. If anything is to be done, let one do it with sustained vigor. A lax monastic life stirs up the dust of passions all the more. An evil deed is better left undone, for such a deed torments one afterwards. But a good deed is better done, doing which one repents not later. Just as a border city is closely guarded both within and without, even so guard yourself. Do not let slip this opportunity for spiritual growth. For those who let slip this opportunity grieve indeed when consigned to hell. Those who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of, and are not ashamed of what they should be ashamed of, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. This is an interesting one, the first one. Those who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of. Right? That is false view. That is also not leading to a good state. So being wise and knowing what you should and shouldn't be ashamed of is important. Those who see something to fear where there is nothing to fear, and those who see nothing to fear where there is something to fear, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who imagine evil where there is none, and those who do not see evil where it is, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who discern the wrong as wrong and the right as right, upholding right views, they go to realms of bliss. All right, I think we'll call it a night. Let's do our business and then share merit. So for those of you who might be watching this for the first time, if you'd like to connect with more information regarding myself or the organization Maggaseka, you can check out the website scrolling on the bottom of the screen now, maggaseka.org, maggaseka.org. There in the top right, you can put your email in, and anytime I post something new, anytime there's a new event coming up. We have a retreat next weekend if you'd like to join. Retreat on Mahasatipatthana Sutta, or the practice itself, I should say. All this information you can find by putting your email in there, which subscribes you to notifications. On YouTube, you can also subscribe, click the bell, and then anytime I come out with a new video, etc., you will get notified. We also have the Maggaseka Discord community, which is a community of practitioners who study and practice through the framework of the early Buddhist texts. If this sounds something that might be interesting to you, you can send an email to the email listed on the screen, muggaseka@gmail.com, and ask for an invite, and you'll be sent one. So every Monday night, when I'm able to, in the place that I'm able to do it, we have Dhammapalooza as usual, 8 p.m. New York time. Then we have Saturday evenings, Saturday afternoons, 3 p.m. On Insight Timer. If you use Insight Timer, you can find me there as one of the teachers. And we have an hour-and-a-half session on Insight Timer every Saturday. And then we have our community sutta readings in the Discord Sunday nights at 7 p.m. So you're welcome to join us during any of these events. And also when I have the energy and time and ability, I also do videos like Ask a Bhante, etc. We'll see if I can get one of those out for this Wednesday. And I think that will do it. Let's share merit. Call it a night. There we go. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, sokha patta chane sokha, hontu sabbe pipanio, etavatta cha mehi sampadang punya sappadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata japumata deva naga mahiddika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this dispensation of ours. May they long share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Well, this is the end of another Dhammapalooza. Sukhi Hotu, may you be well and at ease, practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Have a good weekend, or week.